emergency has passed, then the stress hormones dissipate from our bodies and the system returns to normal, what it was before the stress event began. So that is the nature of the way our body has evolved to deal with emergency stressors. But you can see that this is a short-term event. It's not supposed to be a chronic, permanent event. It is something that has happened suddenly and requires rapid action. And once the action has been taken, we have solved the problem or dealt with the emergency, then our bodies return to normal. We notice that our breathing slows down again. Maybe we have reached, the example I was using, where you have a sick child, possibly you are very edgy as you are driving to hospital or looking for other transport to take you to hospital. Once you reach the hospital, the medical team has reassured you that they know what is the problem and what they're going to be able to do about it. Then you find that your system begins to return to normal by slowing down your breathing. Your heart rate once again slows down to its normal rate, and so on. So this is something that is part of our lives, but this is not the problematic stress that we are actually talking about this evening. The problematic stress is what we call chronic stress. So we can define chronic stress as a psychological and physiological. It can be one or both response. It's a psychological or physiological response which is induced by a continuous emotional pressure over which we feel either powerless or overwhelmed. And it is in response to a continual emotional pressure which leaves us feeling powerless or overwhelmed. So unlike the previous case that our child is sick in the middle of the night, we know what to do. We know we need to get up. We need to maybe get ready and get them to medical attention. In this case, we may find that we are powerless, or we don't know what to do, or anything we try to do seems either too difficult or ineffective. So the problem with this chronic stress is that it leads to a continuous production of the same stress hormones that we're talking about, but the hormones circulate in the body and keep on circulating in a continuous state of emergency situation. So unlike the previous example where we have the hormones circulating, dealing with the emergency and then dissipating, in the case of chronic stress, you have the same hormones, but unfortunately they keep on circulating because we don't seem to be able to find a way to resolve that emergency. And that means that we continue having these hormones and we continue having these stress reactions in an inappropriate way, because that system is not supposed to be continuously on red alert. It's supposed to come on, deal with the situation, and then dissipate and slow down back to normal. So if the stress hormones do not dissipate at the end of a stressful event, that is, the event continues and continues, then what happens is that their effect is continuous in our system. So you can imagine your heart keeps on beating very fast, your breathing keeps on being erratic and too quick. You find that then you are starting to harm your body, because our body is not supposed to be in that high alert state for a prolonged period. And if that happens, then we find that our physiology is going to be harmed, and we are going to start depleting some of the substances which our body requires to function properly. So what are some of the sources of chronic stress? Of course, I'm sure you know quite a number of them. I'll just mention a few, and this includes financial setbacks. Let us say that something has gone terribly wrong with our financial situation, and we are not able to really deal with it, or all the solutions we are trying to put in place are not working, and that we are not able to resolve the problem in one event. It becomes an ongoing event. Another example is high pressure at work. Maybe we have got a very high pressure job where there are a lot of deadlines and we don't find that we're able to cope with some of the expectations that are being put on us. Then this can lead to chronic stress because we continuously feel that we are not getting ahead. We are always on the back foot. Then the other is hard family troubles that maybe seem to be difficult to solve, or there doesn't seem to be any obvious solution. And this can also be an ongoing situation that can result in chronic stress. And then the last example I want to give is unresolved health problems. So maybe we have an illness and we have not got a proper diagnosis. So we are going from place to place trying to find out what is wrong, or we have been told what is wrong and now we are trying to find a solution, but no solution seems to be working. So those are 4 examples of sources of chronic stress, some of the top 4 that can lead to chronic stress. And then now let us turn our attention to the fact that chronic stress manifests itself differently from person to person. So the way that I'm going to react, or the effect that stress is going to have on me, will differ from what it might have on you. And so for that reason, it's not one size of anything fitting all. It's a matter of the person and the way that they are made. And you will find that one of the good approaches for us as distributors, when we want to recommend products for stress resolution, is to try to target the specific areas of weakness where the chronic stress is manifesting itself. So for some people, it might be an autoimmune reaction. So some people, when they're under stress, they break out into rashes. And sometimes the rashes are called hives. Or for some people, there might be some cardiovascular manifestations. So for example, they may start having rapid erratic heartbeats called sometimes palpitations. Or for some people, it might be that their gut becomes very irritable, so they may suffer from diarrhea or constipation. In other people, it might be a mental manifestation, so they may get depressed and they become lethargic and feel like they cannot do anything. They don't even have the energy to get up and do anything. For others, it might be anxiety. Others, it might even be outbursts of different types of emotions. So as you can see from these examples, there can be different ways that this chronic stress manifests itself, and there can be more than one manifestation. So that is why I say that to deal with the manifestation of the chronic stress while they are working towards resolving the stress. So the resolution of the chronic stressor might not be immediate. It may, that would simply be an emergency or a short-term stressor. But a chronic stressor may require a more prolonged resolution. It may take some time, it may take some planning and approach to start by dealing with the areas of weakness. And as I've given the example, different people will have different areas of weakness, which are usually the ones that will show the effects of the stress. So I just wanted to give a few more examples of how chronic stress can manifest itself by worsening existing conditions, and also to say that is why we have a second factor affecting them. A lot of the factors I'm going to mention are factors that can actually be weakness for us, because as I said that life on earth involves a certain amount of stress always. We need to be resilient, and to be resilient, we need to be able to roll with the punches and to get up and keep on going and keep on fighting. So, for example, if someone has got asthma or emphysema, which are both respiratory conditions that lead to difficulty in breathing, then we saw that one of the effects of the chronic stress and the stress hormones is going to be related to rapid breathing. If already there is a situation to do with the respiratory system, then this can be an area of weakness where the chronic stress is going to start manifesting itself. So for instance, if a person is asthmatic, when they're undergoing stress, they may tend to have more asthmatic attacks. And so if someone is asthmatic, then our recommendation would first of all to be, as they are resolving the chronic stress, they should also deal with the asthma itself or whatever respiratory condition they may have. And here we can recommend for them herbal respiratory complex, flavonoid complex or vitamin C, as well as omega-3 salmon oil, which help with those conditions. Then another effect we said is the chronic stress, the stress hormones will have the effect of making the heartbeat rapid and also making the blood vessels constrict. That is, the blood vessels become narrow. This means that the heart is going to be beating faster and harder. And for a short-term situation, it's okay, because once we deal with the situation, it will come back to normal. But if it is chronic stress, then we'll have the heart working on overdrive almost all the time. And if a person has a pre-existing condition like high blood pressure, then of course, I'm sure we have come across the situations where someone has high blood pressure, they have a stress event or a prolonged stress event, and their blood pressure goes completely out of control. We've even heard of situations where the heart becomes so overladen with its work that it fails. So to resolve this, the cardiovascular situation for the person, we need to recommend that they already start using omega-3 salmon oil, lipotropic adjunct, as well as coenzyme Q10, which assists with heart function. So omega-3 salmon oil and lipotropic adjunct are going to help with blood health and vascular health, the health of the blood vessels. And then coenzyme Q10 is going to help with heart function. And by resolving this, then we help them as they are dealing with their chronic stress. They are also resolving the problem that is causing manifestation of the effects of the chronic stress and the stress hormones. Then another one can be what we mentioned, that another effect of the stress hormones is that they cause the liver to provide a shot of glucose into the blood so as to provide fuel. But if the stress is chronic, then this can lead to continuous feeling of being exhausted, or on the other hand, it can lead a person to start craving refined carbohydrates. And if the person is diabetic or pre-diabetic, then if they start indulging in large amounts of refined carbohydrates, then of course it can throw their blood sugar into a serious diabetic situation. And this is quite a serious problem. So in order to deal with that, then we can educate people on the fact that diabetes is something for which we have products that they can actually resolve it and find and normalize their sugar metabolism by using botanical balance, tree and N, as well as fiber tablets. And if their case is one where they feel lethargic and lacking energy, then they can use vitamin B complex, which is very important for energy production and also lifting the mood, because sometimes when one is depressed, we find it difficult to even find or think of effective solutions to obvious problems. So vitamin B complex can help there. As I said, also botanical balance, tree and N, and fiber tablets if the person is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. Then another manifestation that we can observe of chronic stress can be on the immune system, which normally should be able to protect us from very many minor ailments as well as some important ailments. But when we are under chronic stress, we may find that the immune system is being decimated by the effects of the stress hormones, and we may start suffering from attacks from opportunistic organisms that normally we would be able to fight off. So we may find that we start having candida infections more frequently. We may have common colds, many attacks of common colds, sometimes stomach upsets and diarrhea and so on. So again, here we can help by recommending ProVitality, NutriShake, as well as Acidophilus if you have it in your market, or fiber tablets if you do not have it in your market. Some people manifest the effects of chronic stress through gut issues. And here, as I mentioned, they may have constipation, they may have diarrhea, heartburn, nausea, and things like that, where we can recommend Aloe Vera Plus, we can recommend chelated zinc, as well as Acidophilus. In the case of constipation, we may also recommend that from time to time, they take stage 6 so that they're able to deal with the constipation. Then where the chronic stress is interfering with the rest and sleep, we can also recommend Aloe Vera Plus and magnesium. This will help in relaxing and making it easier to go to sleep so that they are not struggling with the additional problem of sleep deprivation. And sometimes we may find that the sleep deprivation also goes on to lead to a vicious cycle of tiredness, despondency, and this can lead to substance abuse, it can lead to food cravings or not eating and avoidance of social life. So this lack of sleep can actually be a source of chronic stress in itself. So it's quite important to try to help the person who is having this difficulty to relax and to get sleep. And that is where we recommend, it can be either magnesium standalone or Calmac together with Aloe Vera Plus. And what we will find is that as they are able to get more rest, they will be better able to get to work out a permanent resolution for their chronic stress. Then I think the other part I wanted to talk about is how to resolve stress. So we'll speak a bit about personal choices that we can make, but also about the Neolife products that we can generally recommend for someone to use as they are working through their stress. So the first thing I wanted to mention is that in order to resolve stress, we need to work towards changing the attitude towards the stressor. We need to see it more as a challenge rather than an insurmountable problem. And I remember when we started out in the business, one of the things that we were always being told in training is the importance of seeing the things that are happening to us, not as stressors or problems, but as challenges. And the importance of changing our view is that we see a challenge is something to which we can rise and find a way to solve and to deal with. But a problem seems to be something that either we might solve or it might be so insurmountable that we completely abandon any attempts to do anything about it. So the first place of resolving stress is the attitude towards the stressor. And sometimes you will find that people speak about even minor setbacks as if they were stress or huge problems. So we need to first examine what we are calling chronic stress, whether it is really stress or merely a minor setback, whether it is a chronic thing or it is something which we can actually put in place a plan to deal with and to get out of the way. So by changing the attitude to what we have, it will help us to reduce that feeling of powerlessness or of being overwhelmed, and we can then initiate means of regaining our mental or emotional well-being so that we are able to start looking and formulating long-term solutions, or we can look for help. Because sometimes if we allow ourselves to become very overwhelmed, we don't even know whether there is help or where to look for help. Or sometimes what we may need is some support in order to get through the worst part of the stress. And then after that, we might then be able to move towards resolving the stress. So sometimes a little bit of support is going to help us to get started. Sometimes it's something with which we need help. Let us say it is our health situation that has shocked us so much that we are not able to deal. Then some help, maybe some therapy can assist us in at least beginning to cope with the situation. But this requires that we change our attitude, because if we have the wrong attitude, then we may not even make the first step towards resolving the stress. Then on the Neolife side, so I will continue further in a few moments about this, but I wanted to mention that on the Neolife side, some of the supplements that we recommend for helping in resolving stress is one, I've mentioned them before, but let me just go over them again. The first one is vitamin B complex. This vitamin has got very many different functions, many of them that are going to help in stress resolution. If they have, for example, vitamin B is involved in energy production. It also is involved in improving mood and alleviating depression. We find that vitamin B complex is important in the manufacturing of blood and a lot of other such things. So vitamin B complex, very important for stress resolution. Then we have Neolife tea, which is a tea that is made from a mixture of different types of tea that help in alertness and energy provision. So alertness can be something that suffers when we are chronically stressed, because one of the effects of stress is that it starts shrinking certain parts of our nervous system, and we find that we are not able to think of solutions or to think of or to be alert towards any possibilities and opportunities that present themselves. So Neolife tea also can play a role there. And then we have aloe vera plus, which I already mentioned, is a herbal preparation that helps in relaxing and also soothes the digestive system. So as we said, one of the manifestations can be problems to do with the gut, and aloe vera plus will help with that, as well as in dealing with nausea. Then the fourth would be multimineral, the mineral supplements that we have. We have multimineral, we have CalMag, and we also have magnesium complex. These all can play a role in stress resolution, because the minerals play key parts in our body systems. And when we have chronic stress, they tend to be depleted. And so you may find that someone is coming with a problem such as low potassium, or they may be lacking, maybe they start getting anemic and so on. So we would then recommend one of the mineral supplements. If they are suffering from anemia or maybe lack of energy, we may recommend multimineral. If they are struggling with sleep and relaxation, or muscular tension, we may recommend CalMag or magnesium complex. If they are, for example, having issues to do with their immune system, or maybe their gut, where they are having ulcers and such like, then chelated zinc can play an important role. Then other supplements that we can also recommend are general supplements such as ProVitality and NutriShake, which help to cover any nutritional deficiencies that might be occurring as a result of the effects of chronic stress. Then some of the lifestyle choices that we can look at are making a change. So one of the things that we can bring into play in stress resolution is making a change. For instance, I will just share that before we joined the business, one of the issues we had was that Pascal had quite a stressful job that had been manifesting in many ways, like he needed to work very far away from home. We were new in town, we had small children, and one of our children, as maybe many of you will know, was chronically sick. And so this can be an example of where you need to consider making a change. So the change might be that you change your job. If the chronic stress is coming from your job situation, it could even be that you change your friends, because there are some situations where the people around us are actually the source of the chronic stress. And we may need to make a change, either in the friends themselves or in the way we interact with them, or our expectations from the friendship. Because sometimes we may be asking something from a friend which they're actually not able to provide. We may be demanding something from a relationship which it is not able to provide. And so the only way to resolve such a stress would be to make a change, either in the friend or in the expectation we have from the relationship. Then the next thing would be that we may also need to review our goals. So maybe we were very ambitious and we wanted to get ahead in the specific job that we have. And now we find that we are so stressed and our health is suffering, our family relations are suffering, and so on. Then it might be time to reassess the goals and to look at our dream chart so that we see where we can make adjustments so that our life is not so filled with stress and stress-related issues. Then the next point of the lifestyle choices would be exercise. So exercise is very excellent for stress in many aspects, one of which is dealing with the effects of chronic stress on cardiovascular system. And we see that when we do some vigorous exercise, maybe taking a brisk walk, we may find that then we get our heart beating rapidly and thereby dissipating some of the stress hormones. The exercise is also very important for our mental health because it will help to match up our mental stress together with our physical stress, because we have two kinds of stress. There's a stress that is mainly in our mental side, that we are overthinking a problem, we are not coming up with a solution, the problem is going round and round in our minds, and we find that we are not getting anywhere, we are going round in circles. This is very tiring. It's mentally tiring, but it is not physically tiring. So what happens is that by the time we go to bed, we are mentally tired, but we're not physically tired, which means what will happen is that we'll struggle to go to sleep because our mind will still be chasing this problem, trying to solve it. Meanwhile, our muscles are not at all tired and are very tense and ready for action, but there is no action coming. So what exercise does is that it gives us an outlet for this pent-up energy in our muscles so that we are able to become physically tired and therefore better able to relax and to sleep. So that is another way in which exercise helps. Also, simply being out exercising, maybe going for a walk, maybe a swim, or cycling and hiking, all these things, they are going to help just with helping us to find ways to take our mind off the issue that we are dealing with for a while. And when we come back to the problem, sometimes we may find that we get a different outlook so that we can find other ideas for solving the problem that maybe had not been clear to us before. Then another point would be sometimes a lot of our chronic stress comes from the inability to say no when actually the answer should be no. So if the answer is no to something because it is causing you a lot of stress and trouble, then it is a good idea to start getting in the habit of thinking about the things you accept and the things you say yes to, because that could be the root of some of this chronic stress. And by saying no, sometimes it means that you're saying no to something, but you're saying yes to yourself, or yes to your family, or yes to better health. So just to know that sometimes when the answer is no, we should actually come out and say no, and maybe give an explanation as to why, if that is necessary. Of course, it's not always possible for us to say no, But it's not always the situation that we have to say yes to everything, even things which are causing us harm. Then another point I wanted to make is to identify optional stressors and eliminate them. So an example is maybe friends that you have. Friends are optional. If they turn out to be a source of stress and trouble, then maybe it's time to put that relationship in a different part of your life. Then another way in which our lifestyle can support stress resolution is finding pleasant things to do. Sometimes we become so preoccupied with our work, our business, our responsibilities that we forget some of the things that bring us joy. So it may be that we like listening to music. It may be that we like to sing. It might be that we have some hobby that we have, or we like to spend time out in nature. We should try to bring these things back in our lives if they've maybe fallen by the wayside, and allow ourselves pleasure in life, so that we don't find that our life is so overwhelming with its problems and issues that it takes all the joy out of us. Because when that happens, we even become less able to deal with things which normally we can deal with. If we allow ourselves to become very overwhelmed, then unfortunately, even the things which are easy to deal with become too much for us. And of course, the people who suffer the most when this happens to us is those whom we love and who depend on us. So for that reason, we should find time for pleasant things, even if it's brief moments or certain days. This is something we should include in our lives. And finally, as I see, I'm now going into Pascal's time, is to say we should safeguard our 8 hours of sleep. So I think we have got a session about sleep, but I'll mention here that research has shown that we need a minimum of 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And if we deprive ourselves of this sleep, we are then working on the side of the stressor rather than on the side of the resolution. So safeguard the sleep. It may not always be easy, and sometimes we may find here and there that we have shortened our sleeping time. We can try to make up for it, but if we have too many nights when we didn't get enough sleep, we cannot make up for the prolonged damage that it does to our mental makeup, especially our mental capacities. So to prioritize the importance of those 8 hours of sleep, because that is going to convert into our ability to actually find solutions to our chronic stressors and improve or avoid serious health issues that might come our way as a result of chronic stress. So I think that the topic of stress is a very big one with very many things in it. But I hope that this session has cast some light, and maybe you will go on to look for more information for yourself. Because as you know, these days, life can people are always talking about how much stress they have in their lives. And we know that there are many illnesses that are rooted in stress. So I would recommend that you use this as a starting point from which to educate yourself further. And also, of course, as always, as distributors, to educate those in our circle of influence, whether it is our families, our friends, or our customers who may benefit from what we know, as well as the products that we have to provide. So I want to hand you over to Pascal now.